First of all, thanks so much for everyone joining here. I know we've got some good representation from the DC Club as well as the Charlottesville Club. Barbara, I saw that you were able to join here, so I really appreciate you spreading the word about this event to everyone in the Central Virginia area. To give you some quick background, my name's Aaron. I'm on the board of the DC Club up here. I play a key role in planning and organizing a lot of these events with Michael from the Office of Engagement. A quick little housekeeping as we go through this. So Matt is going to be leading us through an overview of mindfulness, an actual practice session, and then we're going to do some Q&A towards the end. With that being said, though, we're going to leave the chat box open. So if you have any questions in the moment while it's top of mind, feel free to fire those in there. As you can see, we've got a little bit of a smaller crowd here, so we don't want anyone to feel like they can't have their voice heard. But we are more than happy to answer any and all questions you guys have. If you guys have any sort of meetings coming up at 9 a.m. on the dot, you're not going to offend us if you have to jump off early. We are going to be recording this as well, so if you want to come back and check out the recording, I'll be personally sending that out to everyone after the event so they can check that out as well. And to just give you some quick background, the reason we decided to host this event was, I know, at least for myself personally, mindfulness has been something that has been very helpful to me over the past year, actually dating back to last year at the start of the pandemic. I actually lost my job, and it was a really sort of tough period for me to go through. It was a big ego check. And, I kind of felt a little bit lost at sea. So for me, getting into the habit of just daily meditation was something that really helped me not only root myself and kind of ground myself and my thoughts from going too much of a negative spiral, but it also helped me kind of get a little bit of like objective separation in my mind from how I was feeling, the fact that it was okay to feel that way, but then also, how do I move forward from that as well? And so we figure with 2021 upon us, it's dark out, it's cold out. A lot of people have New Year's resolutions that they're trying to keep on to. And mindfulness is one of those practices that can really help people accomplish that. So we teamed up with Matt, who is actually a former WHO himself. Matt, I believe, actually, I forgot to double check this, but you're also a Lonnie, right?
Yeah, 55 West Lawn.
All right, so we got a celebrity among us as well. And so Matt, actually, he's a key member of UVA's wellness department. He has been involved in these practices throughout the years, and I'll let him give his sort of background a lot better than I can. But he has been gracious enough to help us explain a little bit about what this practice is all about, the actual science behind mindfulness. I feel like meditation is starting to become a hot thing this deep into the pandemic, but also just understanding, okay, cool. I know people do meditation, but like, why do people do this and why does this work? As well as some best practices to consider if this is something that you guys want to continue to do throughout your day. So Matt, without further ado, I will let you take the reins here and introduce yourself to the squad.
Thanks, Aaron. Good morning, everyone. It's great to see your faces. I'm Matt Fritts. I don't want to waste too much time talking about me since we have a short time together this morning. I do want to talk for just maybe 5 minutes about meditation. What is it? What isn't it? Why it's a powerful tool, especially during these unprecedented times. And then we'll do a practice together. And then we'll have an opportunity to share experiences, comments, questions. And I'll mention a couple of resources in the DC area for continuing your practice. So yeah, I was born and raised in Alexandria and was talking with Aaron before, and he used the phrase DC bingo or something like that, DC hopping. So yeah, I lived in Maryland, Virginia, DC. I've been practicing and teaching meditation and yoga for, oh gosh, maybe 20 years. And I work in UVA's employee well-being program, planning and implementing programs for psychological well-being among our employees. So that's a short bit about me. So I'd be curious to know how many of you have tried meditation before. So you could use the thumbs up and the reactions. You could raise your virtual hand just for a moment. You could raise your actual hand. Okay, I see. Yep, Guy, Kesley, yep. Kim, Aaron, Adrian. Great, so we've got a group. Wow, I think we're up to maybe 10 or 11. All right, well, thanks for letting me know. So yeah, meditation really is one of our most powerful self-care tools that's available to us. And there are innumerable research articles that have come out. I think we're up in the 4,000s on Medline in terms of studies on the topic of mindfulness, demonstrating associations between the practice and the state or trait of mindfulness in various aspects of health and well-being. So there are, and if you want to learn more about the research on mindfulness, there are research summaries available on the UVA Mindfulness Center website. You can also do a quick search in Medline on mindfulness. But the nutshell is that it's a very powerful tool to help us during these times when we have kind of a 1-2 punch of the stressors that COVID-19 has presented and the concomitant isolation that physical distancing has required. We could look at COVID in a different way as an opportunity to really go deep within. It's kind of like a compulsory meditation retreat. So there is an opportunity to change the lens through which we view everything that's happening in our world these days. So if we take a step back and ask, what is meditation and what isn't it? So as Aaron mentioned, particularly the term mindfulness has become so popularized that sometimes it's difficult to know what's being referred to. So if we back up and look at just meditation as a whole, we can kind of use this analogy with sports. So just as one would go to the gym to train the body to perform in sports, you can think about meditation as a way of training the mind to be happier and healthier. And if we look at, there's a very large ontology of contemplative practice, a taxonomy of meditation practices, but we can kind of bundle them down. We can reduce them down to 2 or 3 categories. So there are the set of contemplative practices that involve focusing the mind on a single point, on training awareness. So those are the types that that category would include things like transcendental meditation or shamatha meditation, single-pointed, some forms of Zen meditation. And then a second bucket of meditative and contemplative practice involves an open awareness. And this is the category that includes the practices that are known as mindfulness. So it's cultivating an open, non-judgmental, present moment awareness of whatever is arising. in the body, in the breath, in the mind. So those are two main categories of contemplative practice. Let me just take a quick look at my notes to make sure I'm not missing anything key before we go into an actual practice. Oh yeah, I just wanted to mention briefly that what does this word meditation mean? So there's some Western, we could go into the semantics from a Western perspective. If we look at it from the rich Eastern traditions, the Sanskrit word is bhavana, which means cultivating familiarity. So we can think of meditation as like getting to know our own mind. And before we launch into the practice, I want to just offer a couple of illuminations around some of the myths around meditation. So some of the common ones are, my mind is too busy to meditate. So, and that's actually precisely why we're doing it. I will say that sometimes when we begin to meditate, it seems like our monkey mind is getting worse before it gets better. And that's just because we're becoming more aware of all of the flood of thoughts, that constant stream of thoughts running at 100 miles an hour. So don't be surprised if it seems a little bit overwhelming at first. So if you do find yourself going into a judgmental state around, I can't do this, my mind is too busy, my thoughts are racing, welcome to the human race and the human mind. And we can just invite ourselves to sit with that, with self-compassion, with warmth, with openness, and just notice those feelings of or those thoughts of judgment towards yourselves, just like any other thought that would pass through. Okay, so let's transition into a few minutes of practice together. I'd like to use the lens of what's called the three doors, which refer to the body, the speech, which is connected to energy, and then the third door is the mind. And there's a rough correlation with the four foundations of mindfulness here for those who are familiar of that lens. So let's start with the body. So just invite you to notice the body, notice the sitting position, make any adjustments, and we'd like to sit comfortably, but with dignity, so that there's a straightness to the spine, shoulders can drop back and down, the crown of the head can lift. The eyes can either be open or halfway open with the gaze slightly downward, or some prefer to practice with the eyes closed. Let's take some moments to drop down out of the thinking mind into the felt sense of the body. Can you feel the contact between the body and the chair, or perhaps the floor? Can you feel the grounding through the feet into the earth? And when the mind starts to wander off into thought, into mental time travel, meaning thoughts about the past, predictions of the future, see if you can gently but firmly guide the attention back to the felt sense of the body, to the feeling of the earth beneath the feet. We might also welcome any sensations that are arising in this moment. Just noticing any grumblings in the stomach if we haven't had breakfast. Any aches and pains. Any other sensations that might be arising. We can just notice with that open, non-judgmental, warm awareness. Noticing those sensations as they arise, as they remain, and as they pass away. We'll transition now to the second doorway of the breath. So if the body needs to adjust slightly, feel free to allow that. And for this one, you may want to have one hand on the belly and another hand on the chest. Totally optional. Just begin to notice the breath. However it is right now. Without any agenda around controlling or changing the breath. Just let the breath take care of itself, like it knows so well how to do. And if the hands are positioned on the tummy and the chest, you might notice that subtle, almost imperceptible movement of the abdomen and the chest as the breath goes in and out. Another point of focus for this breath practice that's mentioned in the ancient teachings is to place the awareness at the tip of the nostrils. And then notice the breath entering the nostrils, probably cool. And then notice as the breath exits the nostrils, just slightly warmer than it was on the way in. Then in a moment, we'll be transitioning to the third door. So as the time feels right, hands placed on chest and abdomen can drift back down to the lap. Invite any micro adjustments to the bodily position. And we'll begin to train our awareness on the mind and its contents. So here, an image can be helpful. We can envision our true nature of mind, our original mind, so to speak, as a clear, vast blue sky. Imbued with clarity, luminosity, and vast expansiveness. And then as the thoughts arise, we can envision those as puffy white clouds just drifting across that clear blue sky of the mind. Perhaps noticing how those thought clouds change shape as they drift across. Keeping the focus more on the clear blue sky of the mind behind the thoughts, so that we're not getting involved in the content of a particular thought or the narrative or story that we often create around the thoughts. And it said that this clear blue sky nature of the mind is our fundamental nature of indestructible peace, unchangeable calm, and transformative awareness. So knowing that this true nature of our mind is not going anywhere, that it's with us always and never more than a breath away, let's bring our awareness back into the body. Begin to perhaps deepen the breath a little bit. Invite any kind of welcoming back into the body. I'll just mention one resource in the DC area for further practice. It's the Insight Meditation Community of Washington. Just going to put the URL in the chat. Tara Brock is the founder, clinical psychologist. It's a great community to support all levels of practice, particularly of mindfulness practice. So if there are any sharings or comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand. And if those who need to prepare for a 9 o'clock, you're certainly welcome to go about your day.
Matt, I got one question for you.
Sure.
As for even myself, as I look to try to like build up this habit, and really kind of get the discipline to do it every single day, is there like a time of day that you recommend that I meditate or people meditate throughout the day, or that's most effective?
Sure. I would say the best time is the time that works for you. So, I mean, traditionally, first thing in the morning, is recommended before the day and our mind gets the best of us. So some people enjoy the morning, some people enjoy evening right before bed. I would say to start small if you're new to meditation and if you're trying to build a practice, better to do 1 or 2 minutes a day consistently than to try to commit to a half-hour practice daily.
Fair enough. It's like trying to get in a better cardio shape and not just starting out with like one
Exactly.
5-mile run every 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're not going to load up the bench press with 200 pounds the first time you go to the gym. So, yeah.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
A question I saw in the chat a couple times from both Kim and Chris is around the concept of like a program or sort of guided meditation. Is that something either your team offers as part of like, maybe I guess that's only limited to like the employees at UVA, or are there any online guides that you recommend? I know I've been a big fan of using Headspace to guide me through, but I wasn't sure if there's any others that you guys recommend.
Yeah, there are some great apps out there. And there's also a website that is run by psychologists that reviews these apps. It's cyber.net, PSYBER.net, I think. And they look at the evidence base, they look at conflicts of interest and the people who develop the apps. So yeah, there's a plethora of apps. I think Headspace that you mentioned is good, Calm is good. For UVA employees, we offer eMindful, which has the advantage of live instructors. So that's also an option. So yeah, I think that cyber.net is a good site to look at the reviews before you purchase an app.
Cool.
And certainly IMCW, the Insight Meditation Community of Washington, I believe they have a number of audio resources on their site. I know that UVA Mindfulness Center does have guided meditations, audio files on their site. It's another free option.
And for everyone participating too, in my follow-up email with the recording, I'll be sure to include some of these links as well. So if people want to be able to check that out.
Just looking at the chat here. I love it. 10 minutes with the Epsom salt bath. That's great. That's wonderful. So yeah, that's such a great example of just looking at a meditation practice as self-care, of so approaching meditation practice as a self-soothing self-care. So we can get creative and combine or create a frame or for a meditation practice that encourages relaxation. I'm a big hiker and I love to just go hiking and then just sit in front of a vast view and do some practice. Okay, important question here. Article in CNN this morning about mindfulness meditation being potentially bad. So yes, there is some evidence showing that for a small segment of us, that there can be some kind of contraindications. And those are limited more towards people who have a clinical level of psychological symptoms, particularly around any sort of disorder or set of experiences where there's a lot of rumination or a concern around perhaps entering into a psychotic break, or if there's a strong history of trauma, there can be some potential concerns around that. So I'll just say that it can be in my own life and in many of practitioners' lives, pairing contemplative practice, meditation practice with therapy can be very powerful. I've had a really transformative effect of being able to, work with someone who is familiar with meditation in therapy to really transform some, traumatic experiences in my past. So yes, it is a concern to, if you're in, someone's in one of those groups with a significant psychological history, want to exercise caution. It's a really good question. Having a guide, do you recommend other guides on YouTube? I do recommend Tara Brach. I mean, she's right there in the DC area. She has a weekly, she was the one who founded the Insight Meditation Community of Washington. She's also a clinical psychologist, and she has a weekly satsang, which is simply a gathering, and that's live streamed on YouTube. I believe it's on Wednesday nights, I think. So I do recommend her. Let's see. Do I offer meditation sessions? Yeah, I teach I'm also a yoga teacher. I teach a couple of yoga and meditation classes here at UVA with our intramural sports department. Let's see here. If a farm and free union hold retreats there, you're welcome to take UVA mindfulness group there to practice. Wow. Thank you, Krista. That's a very generous offer. Yeah, we do have the Morven Farm Center as well, where they do offer Compassionate Care Initiative offers mindfulness retreats there. Do I work with the tennis team at UVA? I don't, but I am a former competitive tennis player. Any other sharings or questions or comments? Well, it's so nice to share time with you together this morning. And Aaron, if you want to put my email in your follow-up email, you can feel free to contact me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
More than happy to do that.
I'll put it in the chat too.
Yeah, that way, if people want to reach out, are you comfortable with people reaching out on any sort of questions?
Sure.
All right, cool. Very cool then. Well, thanks so much, everyone. I mean, we really appreciate you being willing to join us this morning. I know we're always juggling a bunch of different things and, life, personal work. So just being able to carve out some time to bring everyone together to learn about a topic like this, that's what excites me and makes me want to do this. So I really appreciate you guys coming to listen to Matt and participate in this. As I mentioned, I'll be following up with a recording of today's session. That's going to take a couple days to get finalized. So if you don't see anything immediately, I promise it's on my list, and I'll have it out as soon as I get that, as well as some of the resources that Matt mentioned. But as Matt said, feel free to reach out to him if you have any sort of questions around this. And likewise, we're always open ears over here at the club. So if any of you ever have any sort of event ideas, feel free to reach out to me and kind of put that on my radar, because we're always looking for the next thing that is going to excite people to want to carve out some time in their day to meet with everyone.
So I'd like to just offer one thing in closing, and it's a traditional way that in some traditions, a period of meditation is brought to a close, and that's by mentally offering part of the benefit of the practice to benefit everyone. So, and this is a powerful thing to do because it reminds us that we're all in this together. We're all in this pandemic together. And even if we just have a small thought of, when I sit down on the cushion or chair to practice, I'm not only benefiting myself, but I'm benefiting, my family, my community, the DC area, even wider. And so if you'd like to just take a moment to, offer from your heart some of the benefits of your practice this morning outward, to shine a light through the darkness. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Have a wonderful day.